we are Culinary is getting set up, right? So while they're we'll wait a couple minutes, people get settled. While they're setting up, we'll start our trivia as an opening to this event. This year, we'll actually break the trivia questions into at least into 2 or 3 groups to mix it up a little bit. So think about, for your seating arrangements, really think about who's going to help you win. Right? Who can you lean on to answer these questions? And, feel free to cut people as you need to on this, okay? All right, so just a couple of minutes, we'll start the trivia portion.
I love your presentation.
Oh, thank you.
I bought your first 2 fine fantasies.
Thank you so much.
I left them in the car, but I'll try to find you today. I'd love to see you on there.
Oh, wow, I would be honored. Yeah, and I'm going to be on the panels this afternoon. So.
I'll be at that panel, so I'll bring it to that.
Thank you.
I'm John Hilliard.
Well, it's so great to meet you.
I come to all these things. I was a student of Jack Williamson 10 years ago.
Hey, that's awesome.
Not in which I wasn't interested in at the time, but I took as a movies major, took 19th century British novelists.
There you guys go. Thank you very much.
You want some water, some tea?
Oh, yes, please. I'll take some tea. Oh, delicious. Oh, thank you so much.
I heard you were running on fumes today. You spent your entire life in an airport.
Yeah, so I flew in from California to Denver, and it was there where the delay happened. So,
Yeah, all in Denver.
yeah, the Key Lime Air.
Yeah.
So it was a 5-hour delay.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh, at least the airport's nice.
It is a nice airport.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So, I don't know how to pronounce this title.
Oh, yes, Shenelende.
Shenelende.
Just so we get ready. You are president.
Yes, I am.
They're out of your books, so some of the anthology.
I'll call you in the room.
All right. And then, do you have a new book?
Yeah,
This is your new book. It's Shenelende.
yes.
All right, everybody. First things first, sorry to cut your conversation short. I want to get us kind of moving here, right? So first things first, I want to thank you all for coming here. This is our 48th Williamson Lectureship, right? Yeah. So every year we try a little bit more. We try to do a few things, and it's been a lot of success, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But to kind of get us warmed up here, I want to open up into our trivia contest. And just as a note, helping me this year is Madeline Ferguson. Madeline is the president of our English club, which is also titled, the official name of the club is the Desperate Optimists, which you don't know is a term from Jack. He always called that we are just desperate optimists, right? So it's a club in honor of him. So Maddie will help me keep score. She'll keep hashtags for this. On your table are dry erase placards and dry erase markers. You'll put your answers on those and we'll tabulate them from there. I'll try to leave a reasonable amount of time per question, but we'll move through them as we can, all right? Y'all, every year when I do this, I get comments that the questions were either too hard or too easy. So I tried to do both.
Really
So we'll
too
see how
hard.
that works, all right?
Much
So,
too hard.
well, we'll see. All right. So we'll do the first 6 right now. Y'all ready? All right. Question 1. This is from the style of actually. I have a statement that is incorrect here. You need to identify the one thing that's incorrect. In Darcie Little Badger's Alatsoe, Ellie's family has the ability to recall the ghosts of animals, which her grandmother uses to recall a woolly mammoth. Ellie herself raises the spirits of trilobites and Kirby, her dead cat. Identify the incorrect item on this. Write it on it, yeah. Raise it when you're done.
I couldn't get any of the answers.
Oh, yeah, don't show their tables. Don't give it away.
Some of these people are really,
All right.
really, really good.
Going.
Carrie wrote it.
Ready? Everybody ready? Okay. The correct answer here is that it is not a dead cat. It was her deceased dog. So keep your placard up if you have a dog on here. So that is table 12. table 13, table 11. Is that table 3? 8. Sorry, Kelsey's at table 8. Table 10. Which table is that? 3? And then table 5. All right. Moving right along. Question 2. Torchwood is a 2006 British sci-fi series dealing with secret British government body that combats aliens and the paranormal in the UK. What is Torchwood an anagram for? What is Torchwood an anagram for? All right. Placards in the air when you're ready. Sorry. I appreciate the joke answers too. Everybody going? Going?
Make it work.
About to call it. Gene, right with fury. Okay, all right. All right, and of course it's an anagram for Doctor Who, which it was a spin-off of, right? Keep your placards up if you had that. So that is table 10, table, is that 7? Table 6, table, Ben, is that 3? Table 3. And what table is that one? 4. All right. Moving to question 3. This is also borrowing a style from actually. This is a question called Where Am I? I'll show you a map, and you give me either the title of the world it is in, or at least the series. Where am I?
I know this one. The first one.
All right. Get placards up if you know. All right, ready? Going, calling it. Of course, this is Discworld. It is, in fact, turtles all the way down. So if you have Discworld, keep your placards up. So that is 12, 11, 8, 10, 6, 3, 4. Anybody else? Okay, good. All right. Another question. This is a question called A Cover by Any Other Name. I will show you the cover of a famous book. You tell me the title of that book. For this first one, I'll be kind. I'll accept the name of the series. What is this book? What is this book? Sorry, manage the glare as best you can. All right. Going. About to call it. All right. Calling it. Yes, of course, this is The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan, also the first book of The Wheel of Time. So if you have either Eye of the World or Wheel of Time, we'll take that. If you had to, keep your placards up so we can score. So that is table 12. What was your table number? I saw it. Table 11, table 9, table 8, table 6, table 10, table 4, and table 3. All right. In 2nd edition Dungeons & Dragons, the success of attacks required players to consult THACO, which stands for what? What does THACO stand for? If you don't know the horrors of THACO, you lucked out. What does THACO stand for? Going. Okay, ready? And
words I gotta write down. Give them another second.
all right. Going. All right, I'm about to call it. Get it up if you got it. All right. Of course, THACO stands for 2-hit armor class 0. On the right there is a chart. Y'all, you had to roll, do math of your modifier, and then consult this chart to figure out whether or not you hit. It was a 4-step process for each attack. If you got it, keep your placard up. So that is table 12, table 6, Who's that in the back? I can't see your table number. 2, table 3, and table 4. All right. Next one here. Iconic lines. This might be easy or hard. It depends. I have 4 quotes. I want you to match them up with who said them. To answer this, put the letters in the order they should be, right? So the first line, the first quote up with the letter that it connects to. Line 1, honor is dead, but I'll see what I can do. Line 2, it must be Thursday. I can never get the hang of Thursdays. Line 3, the building was on fire and it wasn't my fault. Line 4, negative, I am a meat popsicle. The possibles are Arthur Dent, Harry Dresden, Kaladin Stormblessed, or Corbin Dallas.
Harry Rosen.
All right. Going.
Pretty good at this.
Going.
It looks like we're having some squabbling.
Going. All right, I'm going to call it. All right, we'll call it. Placards up. Of course, the correct answer is CABD.
All right.
It's Kaladin Stormblessed, then Arthur Dent, then Harry Dresden, and then finally Corbin Dallas. If you got that correct, keep your placards up. So that's table 12, table 11, table 8, table 7, table 6, table 10, and table 3. All right. Hey, Lisa, are y'all almost ready? No worries. I'm going to go a couple more questions then. Okay, all right, cool. We'll keep going. All right, question 7. Another incorrect statement. In 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons, by the way, I try to cater these to our guests. Our guest is a, infamous D&D lover right here. So in 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons, characters had 3 actions per round, a move action, a bonus action, and a standard action. Players could also trade out a standard action for either an additional move or a bonus action. What is the incorrect item here? This is real nitpicky, I know.
We played the 1st edition. It was easier then.
Elon Musk would know.
What is incorrect here?
He says. He?
Any takers? Any guesses here? Placards up if you think.
I have no idea.
Why? What do you?
All right, going. All right. Of course, the real difference in 4th edition is there were no bonus actions. They were minor actions. There were minor actions. In 5th edition, they traded out the terminology for minor to bonus. So if you got that, placards up. I think we have one table. What number, y'all? Number one.
Jessica is working.
Number 1's on the board. Good for you. All right. Okay. Yes. All right.
Arthur, do you want last?
Another one here. This is a tricky one. I want you to rank the following starships from smallest to largest.
Oh my goodness.
I was going.
Danielle.
Rank these from smallest to largest.
I'll just do first.
And Arthur. Oh, I can give you the last names you want,
No,
but,
that's
then
right.
but then you have to try and pronounce it. Yeah.
Okay.
No, Jessica can get out of her job at the historic site. They have camels
I know.
today.
That's what I heard. That's so great.
She's not.
I wish I was there.
She's not having it. And you can't ride them because of liability.
Okay, Darcie, real quick. Okay.
All right, going.
Need to know.
Going.
In your spare time.
You have to finish your debates quick here. Going.
Powerlifting,
Powerlifting.
and Twitch.
All right, I'm going to call it. All right, of course, the correct order is the smallest ship is the Cylon Raider. The next, the next smallest is, of course, the Imperial Star Destroyer. The next smallest is, or the next largest, excuse me, is the Borg Assimilation Cube. The next is, I forgot the name right now. This is the ship 4B there. That is the ship from WALL-E, the spaceship that took them. And 5A, of course, is a larger class Imperial ship, which is the largest of these. So if you got this correct, placards up. Looks like maybe we have one table.
Whatever they are, they're creatures.
That's right.
Jonathan, did y'all get that right? Yeah, that wasn't the question, Jonathan. All right.
Who
Okay.
decided this, David? That's what we want to know.
Hey, look, if you're mad at me, blame the people who said it was too easy. Okay, all right. You know what? You're right. That was a little difficult. I'm gonna get one that like 80% of the people in this room should know, just on sight. I've got another covered by its name. You ready? What's this book?
Oh, okay.
No. Nobody knows that.
All right, placards up if you know it.
Library this morning and had to explain to them, no, don't put them in the used books.
Okay, going. About to call it. All right,
A
y'all.
bunch of signed books.
Of course, this is Doomsday Book by Connie Willis, right?
And
Yes.
they said,
All right, keep your placards up if you had it.
what are we supposed to do?
So that is
Don't
tables
put them in
11,
used
table
books that were
13,
donated these to them.
table 10,
Although I'd
Table
be there
9,
later today going like,
table
well, thank
8,
you.
and table 4. All right. All right, y'all. This one might be a little strange, but if you know it, you're going to know it pretty quickly. I got another Where Am I? Where am I?
Wait a second. All right, maybe I do.
Where am I? I will take either the name of the world or the title of the book or movie it might be from.
Yeah, he said movie.
Yeah, William Gold. Yeah. All right, I'm feeling better.
Okay. Going. All right. This is, of course, The Princess Bride.
Yeah.
So we have tables 11, 9, 8, 12, 10, 7, and 3, and 4. Yes, correct. And 5. Did I miss 5? Oh, I didn't see you, Amber. Okay, yeah, 5. Sorry, Amber. Gosh. Okay. By the way, and I got 7, right? We got 7? Yeah. Okay. If you didn't know, by the way, Princess Bride, much like I made the mistake of, it was actually a movie first and then later adapted in the book. Very different narratives. So, all right, y'all. Looks like we're still getting set up, so we'll move in. Keep going. All right, let's do some 80s nostalgia here.
Yeah, I read the book.
In the 1985 film Back to the Future, what is the charge necessary to power the flux capacitor for time travel?
Like the exact charge?
You mentioned that.
Oh, someone
Doc
got it.
mentions that. So.
All right. In the 85 film Back to the Future, what is the charge necessary? Going, gone. And y'all, I am going to be precise here. So, of course, it is 1.21 gigawatts. Should be gigawatts, of course, but that's not how Doc Brown said it. So if you had 1.21 gigawatts, keep your placard up. Sophia, that's not 1.21. What are you playing at here? Okay. All right. So, Maddie. Oh, sorry, real quick. Oh, no, it's good. Maddie, you write this down real quick. So we got 10, 6, 7, 2, 4, and 5.
Maybe I should
Sorry.
try that. No.
All right. Pause for 1 second, y'all.
I was very impressed. They've done such a good job.
Okay.
Vegetarian, what's vegetarian?
Do you want to
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Hey, everybody. This is Lisa Campbell, the faculty member in our culinary arts program who headed up our lunch.
Hi, how are you all? I'm going to talk to you about some really great students. They all made everything. It was a crazy week. I even had to put a post on my announcement saying, look, if you're looking for me, I'm really busy. Anyways, the first one is roasted sweet potatoes. That's the first one. And then the next one is macaroni and cheese, which has been baked. It is not, it doesn't have meat in it, but it is vegetarian, but not vegan. Then we go next and we have bacon baked beans, which we baked all day long. And then the next one is barbecue sandwiches. They're sliders, actually. And then the next one's ham and cheese, which are also sliders. Then we have cheese sliders. And the last one is mushroom sliders and vegetarian baked beans. Now, I do have an option for those following Lent, but I'd rather you ask me because we have that in the refrigerator and we'll bring it to you. But I don't, we're almost, are we ready? Almost. Give us about a minute or two more. we were having an issue with getting the things hot enough to put them out. We have to follow state guidelines. And until it reaches a certain temperature, we're not allowed to put food down. So now it's all up to temperature, so I apologize.
Thank you. All right, so while we're getting that ready, we'll go ahead and get a couple more questions here, right? So, are y'all ready for this next one? Another set of iconic lines. I feel like some of y'all got to know some of these lines here. So, all right. Iconic phrases 2. 1, get away from her, you bitch. 2, it's only a flesh wound. 3, all those moments will be lost in time, like tears in the rain.
I know that one.
Missed the B there, sorry. 4, ever have that feeling where you're not sure if you're awake or dreaming? Possible options here: Roy Batty, Ellen Ripley, Thomas A. Anderson, or The Black Knight.
Roy, is that his name? Or that? I guess Batty. I guess it is. Or that. Oh, okay, great. All right, we'll do that.
All right, going. All right, of course, the correct answer here is going to be A, D. Sorry, I'm so sorry, I misspoke. Sorry, B, D, A, C. For the last one, if you didn't catch it, Thomas A. Anderson was, of course, Neo's In the Matrix name, where he says it in the Matrix. So, all right, keep your placards up if you got that. So we got tables 12, 11, 8, 7, 2, 3. Is that 3 right there? Yeah, 3, thank you. 1, 4, and 5. 10. Did I get 10? I'm sorry, 10, y'all. All right, thank you. 6, did you have it right, Eric? Oh, 6 as well. Okay. All right, y'all, so 7, we got 7, right? Okay, yeah. All right, y'all, so food is ready. What I'm gonna go ahead and do is, just so we're not having a line out the door, I'll just kind of wave you up their table at a time, all right? So that way we're not, kind of backed up too much there, okay? All right, so thank you. We'll go ahead and start the food part of this process, so. All right.
Yeah, that should be it. Table tension. And then there's how many sides. I would take it.
It's delicious.
Okay, so you live, where do you live?
Oh, Corona Del Mar.
Corona Del Mar, okay, and that's the LA area?
Yeah. Have you ever been down in the area?
I have, but I haven't been to.
It's an interesting place. Like the area we
Thank you.
I'm good.
You don't have it. Yeah. You don't have a table.
Hey everybody, sorry to interrupt, just a quick, keeping, but a quick announcement. So there's still some food up there, everybody's had a plate. If you would like some more, feel free, go ahead, right? Also, they are plating desserts they're putting out desserts right now. Once they're out, yes, they're putting out desserts right now. Our desserts are two options. The committee decided that, based on presenting the options they liked, the dessert options from item 2, which were margarita cupcakes and tres leches cake. So, a note on the margarita cupcakes, y'all. To make proper margarita cupcakes, it does require a little bit of tequila. Just FYI, it's not enough to make you really, intoxicated by any measure. However, if you are alcohol-free for any reason, don't get the cupcakes, right? One final note, there is a circular table back there. If you would like, you can clear your dishes there once you're done with them. Some of the culinary students will come by and get them, but we're just trying to make sure that we're all set up so that we're not clanking dishes and putting them away while our speakers are speaking, right? So yeah, we'll keep eating in a little bit here. We'll get going with our keynote address.
Do you have a specialist there?
We are cutting the translation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to make sure. I know there's always so much. Oh, sure. Thanks so much. There should be. You like were about to tell me, and then you didn't have it.
Hey everybody, just a heads up, we're going to start with our speech portion here in just a couple of minutes, so give you time to get more plates, have plates taken away, so we're not, clanking during our talk, and then we'll kind of get moving on that. Thank you.
Did you tell me yesterday?
Is much more in the way?
No, I can go up there.
All right, hello everybody. We'll go ahead and get started here. I want to make sure we have plenty of time for our talk, as well as to move into our other events. I have just some brief introductory remarks because we're here. Hello everybody, and I'm going to officially welcome you all to the 48th Annual Williamson Lectureship. Thank you. We have a series of events planned. If you're not aware of the events, please check. We have a poster up with the schedule on it. Our website is redirected now to emu.edu/sci-fi, which is the online schedule. So please check it out. We had events yesterday and this morning. We'll have more throughout the day, as well as a final event tomorrow morning, a writing workshop with Connie Willis, which is always very exciting. So, we, as you may have seen, our table doodle has become a delightful tradition. So please feel free to add your own art to this year's lectureship. You've seen, I've had some of the images from previous years. We did this as an on-the-fly modification based on some issues that popped up one year, and then it's become very lovely. So we love it. Put your art down; it'll be great. From its inception, the Williamson Lectureship has been about bringing various campus communities together, authors and academics, to celebrate speculative fiction. The many groups that come together to make this event happen demonstrates how we're working towards this goal. We had a successful student-driven event just last night with the Cantina Carnival. I want to thank, I'm so sorry. And we added even.
We're
academic panels. So just to emphasize very briefly here, the Cantina Carnival yesterday was our second year doing it. We had over 100 attendees at this event yesterday. So yes, so very successful event, and yes. So it's really kind of growing that way. We also have more academic panelists this year, which I'm really excited about. We're growing there, and we'd like to see more of those conversations coming together. Now, with all the groups coming together for this lectureship, I want to offer some thanks before we go any further. First, I want to thank our guest authors for joining us, despite the long, dusty drives it requires, and in the case of our guest of honor, the many, many hours waiting on flight delays last night.
Yay!
I also want to thank the hefty work from the lectureship committee, from developing panel topics to posting posters to covering the dozens of small tasks that continuously and suddenly come up. I want to thank the ENMU Culinary Arts Program for the lovely lunch before us. And it's so good at every level here, right? I want to thank the various student organizations that worked with Dr. Schmidt to put on the carnival last night. And y'all, I don't even have the full list because we had at least 11 student organizations involved. A few that I can remember, but I don't have the full list here. We had the Desperate Optimists, we had Mu Alpha Nu, we had the Forensics Club, we had the Improv Club, we had the D&D Adventurers League, and several others. So thanks to all of them for helping out. I want to thank Barbara Sen for all of her work on our website and social media profiles. I want to thank Regina Belay-Sweeten and Susan Asplin for their dedication and hospitality efforts for all of our chasing down a number of catering options, as well as other things that needed, no matter what you had to badger people for that info. They're not here, but I want to thank Professors Gollum and Ernest, our art faculty. They worked with their graphic design and watercolor classes to produce art based on lectureship authors, and this is on display right now in the Jwala hallway and foyer. I would highly recommend you go check them out. They're delightful. So, oh, sorry, did I pause for juggling between keeping us moving and other things here. I want to thank Comm Services and Duplicating Services. They put up a lot for me, badgering them about info and prints and designs and little meticulous edits. So I want to thank them for doing such a good job with our materials. And of course, I want to thank Sodexo for coordinating with Culinary Arts to have us in this space for the luncheon. Let's give them a hand. Yeah. I also want to thank the bookstore who is here in this space selling books for our authors' books. If you don't have a book to be signed from one of our authors, there's a solution for you right there. They will also be joining us in Jwala during our author panels. So if you go to a panel and you see an author, you like what they have to say, go buy their book. Buy 5 of their books. Buy all of their books. Do the right thing. And last but not least, I want to thank all of you that are here with us. You should give yourselves a hand. The Williamson Lectureship is truly a unique and magical event, and it's one of the things I'm most happy to be part of here at ENMU. It might surprise you to hear that I was a nerdy, bookish child in science fiction and fantasy, were a significant part of my life for as far back as I can remember. Even before I read, I was watching Star Trek episodes with my mom, right? But growing up for life's joys and tragedies, Asimov, Tolkien, Brooks, Lieber, McCaffrey, Jordan, and others, they were there for me. In a similar way, being here with all of you at this lectureship dedicated to this field is a singular joy. You can see what's written on paper about it. The lectureship began when Jack retired in 1977 and carried on his efforts as the Dean of Science Fiction to encourage engagement between writers in science fiction and academics. But this doesn't give the full picture. What makes this event truly special is the way it brings together authors, scholars, students, and community members into the same shared conversations in a way that isn't a fan convention, isn't an academic conference, but somehow takes the best parts of each. I'm continuously amazed that I get to be part of this event every year, and I just want to thank all of you for being here yet again. So thank you. And now, without any further ado, I want to welcome our Mistress of Ceremonies, Connie Willis.
Excuse me. All righty.
Hello, everybody. It's nice to be here. I was just asking Betty, my sister, Betty Williamson, how long I've been coming to the Williamson Lectureship and being at SMC. And she said 30 years because she was pregnant with Katie and she was taking class with Jack Williamson and all the graduate students got pregnant and I couldn't really follow the story. But anyway, apparently I've been coming here for 30 years. So only 40% of the graduate students got pregnant in Jack's class. As I say, I couldn't really follow what she was talking about, but that's typical of my sister. So anyway, I love coming back here. It's just like coming home to come back to Portales. I have so many happy memories of this place, of trips out to the Williamson Ranch to see where Jack wrote his first stories, gatherings at Jack's house, where we would reminisce about all the lectureship adventures that we'd had over the years. Like the year I got lost taking everybody back to Jack's house, and the year the train hit the cattle truck, and the year Betty Williamson had 5 flat tires the week of the lectureship, and the year it flooded and the streets of Portales turned into raging rivers, and the year there was a big ice storm, and the year there was a big windstorm. And I was going to talk about all of those, and then I realized I was watching The Vicar of Dibley last week, which is one of my favorite British television shows, and there was a parish council meeting, and I watched it and then I thought, maybe I won't do that. Because there was this episode where there was this big storm and everybody came in soaking wet to the parish council meeting. And when Frank came in, he said, "It's a terrible night." And Jim said, no, it's not as bad as the big storm. That was when the windmill got blown over. And Owen said, that wasn't the great storm. That was the really great storm where old Harold got blown into the quarry. And Frank said, that wasn't the great storm. That was the great wind. And Jim said, do you remember the great snow when Gladys froze to death? And they said, no, that was the great freeze. And then Owen said, no, Gladys died in the great frost of 48. And the parish council chair said, well, I'm about to die in the great bore of 44. At which point there was a huge crack of thunder and all the lights went out. And Frank said, ooh, this reminds me of the great eclipse of 95. Well, the last thing I want to do is sound like the parish council. So I've always hated all those people who sit around, the old geezers sitting around going, in my day, things were better. So I decided I had better just stick to telling you about the lectureship, about the writer panels, which have gone from a single panel, we used to have one panel, to a whole afternoon of panels with multiple tracks, and about the dinners at the Cattle Baron, which are now at a vineyard, which is just great, and the afternoon gossip sessions at the now deceased Dairy Queen. So we've had to move over to the Dewdrop Inn. And you'll notice that a lot of these memories are food related. And that is because the lectureship serves up an abundance of wonderful meals, including the one we just had here. And oh my God, those margarita cupcakes, I think I had 42. So you'll forgive me if they said there was only a little tequila in the frosting, but you never know. So anyway, I love it because, and I think food is appropriate because science fiction has always been kind of a movable feast. It's a place where you go and people go to conventions. They haven't seen each other in 5 years. They sit over dinner and make everyone laugh so hard that the waiter quits. I've had a number of meals where that happened. Or the one where Gardner Josois made me snort a piece of lettuce up my nose. And I nearly killed myself because I was laughing so hard. Old friends gather and eat, and they catch up on what's happened since the last time they saw each other and eat, make new friends and meet new people, like meeting Darcie, and eat, and talk about writing and science and everything else under the sun, and eat. And that's what we do here at the lectureship. We even eat at the writer's workshop on Saturday, which is one of my favorite things at the lectureship. Because honestly, you know, last year we had so many writers that were also, I teach the lectureship, but I mean, I teach the writer's workshop, but everybody participates. And so you've got all these great writers in the audience, and they're all sharing their advice. And I'm sitting there looking at it and going, I think you would have to pay like $1,000 to go to a conference where you got all this great writing advice from all these wonderful writers. And that's true every single year. Plus there are cupcakes. So anyway, and then there are the panels, which are always really interesting topics. And the speeches. Where else do you get to listen to writers like Michael Cassett, Stephen R. Donaldson, George R. R. Martin, Rebecca Roanhorse, and not only speak, but where else can you listen to them on panels, ask them questions, and eat lunch with them at the Dewdrop Inn? I've been the MC of this luncheon for many years, and every year I make all the writer guests stand up so you know who they are, and talk a little bit about the lectureship and about Jack Williamson, the founder of the feast, and introduce the guest of honor. For many years, Jack was here with us, and he would be at this luncheon, and I still miss him so much. I also try to catch everybody up on the year's news, but don't worry. I'm not going to talk about anything political or economic or depressing, which pretty much eliminates the news. So still, there are a few stories that you may have missed. For instance, Nestle's has introduced a new silent crunch bar. They introduced it on April 1st, no surprise, for eating in libraries, using already cooked rice in the bar for 75% less noise. The TSA caught a man trying to smuggle a turtle aboard a plane in his pants. The Johnstown Flood Museum in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, had to close because of flooding. 2 men have died of exposure in the woods while out looking for Bigfoot. That is like, you can't feel sorry for them. I'm sorry. And a woman in Florida has been busily putting up national ads for her missing support alligator. And speaking of alligators, in years past, I have always shared news about cows because Portales has a lot of cows, and we always go to the cattle barren, and there was this train wreck where all these cows were involved and all that. Anyway, so I usually try and find a cow story, and this year I found a story about a cow and an alligator, which was cool. No, not that story. Not the story where the alligator ate the cow. No. Anyway, these two were apparently roaming around the highways in Houston. And they were able to get the alligator off the highway by roping it and wrestling it into a truck, although I think that was probably a bad idea. And then they tried to lasso the cow, but it just lay down in the middle of the highway and began chewing its cud. So there was also a story about an amateur alligator wrestling competition, which seemed to me like a really bad idea, the amateur part especially. But it led me to look up some other competitions, and there are all these really cool competitions. There's a sword swallowing competition, you would expect, and the British shin kicking championships, and the world's gravy wrestling championship, which I thought at first meant wrestling with gravy, which seemed like a bad idea. But actually it's wrestling in gravy. So it's just like mud wrestling, only beef flavored. There's also an annual grits roll, which is exactly what you think it is. They roll in grits. There's mashed potato wrestling. And then there's the haggis hurling championships in Scotland, where people try to stuff a haggis, a sheep's stomach, stuffed with a sheep's heart, lung, liver, oatmeal suet, and spices. And the trick is you have to hurl it the farthest, but you can't split it it can't break on landing. So you have to be very gentle while hurling, and I'm not sure hurling would really be the right word. And then you have to, because they said it's disqualified because if that happens, because the haggis has to be fit to eat after the championship is over. And I'm like, that makes no sense. Haggis is never fit to eat. And especially now if you've been throwing it around a field. So then I looked up some more palatable types of food competitions. And they include, of course, pies, lettuce, oysters, pancakes, fudge, buffalo wings, and of course, hot dogs. And in Utah, they even had a hot dog eating contest between a man and a bear. The bear won. I won't say anything else about it. So there are also cheese rolling and cherry pit spitting competitions, but they are actually sports, not competitions. And so that led me to look up sports, and I found a whole bunch of stuff like underwater hockey and swamp football and toe wrestling. And some actually sounded fun, like cell phone throwing, and rock, paper, scissors competitions. But then I found the best sport of all, the one that I was born to compete in, extreme ironing. I love to iron. It is my favorite household chore. The year of Watergate, when the hearings were on in the afternoon, I ironed and watched the hearings, and it was the happiest time of my life. Plus the most neatly pressed. I ironed, I got desperate after a while. I started ironing tea towels and sheets and towels and the couch, anything I could find to iron. It was wonderful. I'd just like to say a big thank you to Richard Nixon for that. A lovely, lovely summer. Anyway, now I find out it's a sport. And what is extreme ironing, you may ask? Well, it is ironing with an ironing board and an iron and everything in bizarre places. In the middle of a highway, or on the roof of a house, or in a canoe while paddling downstream. The inventor of the sport, I'm not making this up, Phil Steam Shaw, says it combines the thrills of an extreme outdoor activity with the satisfaction of a well-pressed shirt. And you are judged for how many wrinkles are left in the shirt and how neat the collar and cuffs look. People have competed by ironing while snowboarding, on Mount Rushmore, in a fountain, hanging upside down, on top of Coventry Cathedral, under the hood of a car, on the rim of an active volcano, and at the base camp on Everest. There is also a variation of ironing, extreme ironing, called bungee ironing, which I think is self-explanatory. And then there is also extreme painting and extreme cello playing. And I think that we, in honor of the Williamson Lectureship, should start a new sport called extreme writing.
Yeah.
Yes. And, you know, we would write a novel while standing on the rim of an active volcano or ski jumping or holding our breath underwater. I plan to start right after this luncheon. I'm going over to the roof of the courthouse where I would be writing a poem. And then I thought maybe I would go south of town where they have a wind farm and write a novel while hanging from one of the blades of the wind farm. So who wants to do this with me? Who's in? Come on. Oh, come on, Arcady. I know you're in. Arcady's in. Oh, yay. All right. Great. I'll see you then. Okay. All right. So anyway, I always love to talk. My favorite thing to talk about at the lectureship, though, is always Jack. He founded the lectureship, which is now the longest running named academic lectureship in higher education in the country, lasting even through COVID. And that was only one of the many, many things that Jack did during his very long life. He came to New Mexico in a covered wagon, a fact that still blows my mind, wrote his first stories in a shack on the back 40 of his family's farm, family's ranch, with rattlesnakes rattling underneath the floorboards, wrote groundbreaking short stories and novels, taught college English and science fiction classes, did a syndicated comic strip, became the only SF writer to be mentioned in the Oxford English Dictionary, won dozens of awards, served as a meteorologist in World War II, was president of SUFWA, probably a much more dangerous job than World War II, traveled all over the world, was invited to NASA for one of the Mars flybys, had a university building named after him, and had an asteroid named after him. He published his first story a year before Lindbergh flew the Atlantic, and his last novel a year after the first rover landed on Mars, writing through 9 decades, 2 centuries, and 2 millennia. I think that's a record nobody else will ever break. He got a fan letter from Isaac Asimov, helped Ray Bradbury revise his early stories when Ray was just a teenager, was a major inspiration for Carl Sagan and for entire generations of writers and readers. And he imagined the future that every science fiction writer writing today is living in and working in. He helped create the very language of science fiction. When people ask me, what did Jack Williamson write? I tell them titles, but then I also tell them that he's the person who coined the words terraforming and psionics and android and genetic engineering, which is certainly an unbreakable record. He also invented ideas like a time patrol that keeps time on track, history on track, and wrote about AI before it was even a thing. And one of his most famous books, The Humanoids, deals with the problem of when you have AI and humans are no longer really necessary, what is society going to look like? He wrote that back in the 50s. And now we're dealing with it right now. So, and we haven't unfortunately come up with any good answers, although Jack had some good answers. He founded the lectureship while he was teaching at ENMU because he wanted to bring science fiction writers to Portales. And he succeeded beyond anybody's wildest dreams, bringing in an array of writers and agents and publishers that would be amazing even in New York or Los Angeles. Writers including Roger Zelazny, Greg Bear, Michael Swanwick, Gardner Dozois, Nancy Kress, Terry Bisson, Carrie Vaughn, Fred Saberhagen, Jerry Purnell, Greg Benford, Susie McKee Charnas, Christine Catherine Rush, Ed Bryant, and Will Gibson. And 7, count them, 7 grandmasters of science fiction. Frederick Pohl, Robert Silverberg, Harlan Ellison, Nalo Hopkinson, Joe Haldeman, James Gunn, me, and the grandmaster who was already here, Jack Williamson. He was not only the founder of the lectureship, but he was its heart, just as he was the heart of science fiction. He was this wonderful, nice, courtly, gentle person, the nicest person in science fiction, in fact, and with boundless compassion and generosity to young writers and to all writers, really. I remember the first time I met him at a Mile High Con, and I was just starting out, and he was so nice to me. And it was one of my best memories of coming into the field, because here I was meeting this guy who's a hero of mine, and he was just so lovely. He was also the same to the writers here and to the people who studied under him here at ENMU. And he was the most optimistic person I think I've ever met. And this is I'm not talking about blind, foolish, everything's going to be fine, I'm sure it'll be fine. Optimism. I'm talking about real optimism. He had lived through too many bad times and scary times and sad times, too many trials and tribulations and disillusionments to believe that things would necessarily work out well. He saw quite clearly what the world was like. And he had a shattering experience after World War II when he realized that all of the wonderful, shining things that he thought science was going to do, was destined to do, that they had instead come up with the atomic bomb and way better ways to kill each other. But he genuinely believed that people were decent at heart and that reason and science fiction and humor would triumph in the end. More importantly, he believed that the future would be a better place and that science and literature, and especially science fiction, were the keys to that future. He always kept his sense of wonder about the universe. When I get angry and discouraged about the state of the world, which is about 6 times a day these days, I go look at pictures on the NASA website, the ones taken by the Webb telescope, which if you haven't done that, I really recommend it. They have the most beautiful pictures up there. And I marvel at the immense and mysterious and astonishing beauty of our universe, a beauty that Jack was always aware of and always fascinated by. He called himself Wonder's Child, and that truly was who he was. He manifested that wonder and that sense of optimism into everything he did. I know you have troubles, he had a person from the future say in one of his stories. So do we. Change always comes, turning past achievements into new problems. But most problems have solutions. Trust yourselves, and you'll find things will happen. We're depending on you to pave the way forward, which I think was true when he wrote it, and I think it's very true now. I do want to add a personal note this year. I think that in these times of grants being canceled and books being banned and libraries being decimated and history being revised and science being stifled, of ideas and free speech being restricted, and the very idea of them under threat, that this lectureship is more important than ever. It's all about science and literature and imagination and creativity, about acceptance and inclusion and sharing experiences and ideas. It's the embodiment of every single thing that Jack believed in, and I hope it survives for another 100 years. Now, I want to introduce the writers and other guests who are here who've come to this year's lectureship, and this is what my pages look like. So if I screw them up, I've added things and taken things out, and I'll try to introduce the writers. Okay, and you're going to stand up, and you're going to remain standing just till I finish talking about you, and then you can sit down again. But these people who bob up like some sort of cork and then sit down again, not acceptable. I'm talking about you, Walter. So Walter John Williams is one of our guests here. Stand up, Walter. Walter is the very elderly Nebula Award-winning author of This Is Not a Game, Deep State, City on Fire, The Dread Empire's Fall series, the Praxis novels, including most recently Imperium Restored, and the best of Walter John Williams. Walter John is also the founder and head of the Writers Workshop Taoist Toolbox, and he is a regular here and we really appreciate that, at Portalis. And now you can sit down. Okay, Arcady Martin. See, Arcady knows how to stand up nicely. Walter, what's the matter with you? Arcady is a Hugo Award-winning science fiction writer and the author of A Memory Called Empire, and A Desolation Called Peace, and her latest novels, Rose House, and the upcoming The Trace. And we welcome her. And she came 1 year as a guest, and then just like me, decided that she would keep coming back. And we really appreciate it. So, and Vivian Shaw. And Vivian and Arcady always win the best dressed people at the lectureship, which doesn't take a lot. But even if it did, you would be the best dressed. So Vivian Shaw writes contemporary fantasy, including Strange Practice, Dreadful Company, and Grave Importance, the science fiction novella The Helios Syndrome, Bitter Waters, and Strange New World. And she's also written short fiction in Deadlands, Uncanny, and Pseudopods. Thank you, Vivian. I'm sorry, that compliment came out backwards. I meant, it was them. The people here who are like wearing sneakers like I am today. And the reason I'm wearing sneakers today is that I opened my suitcase this morning and I had 2 shoes for this luncheon. Unfortunately, they were not a pair. So I'm wearing my sneakers. Okay. All right. Ian Tergillis. Ian Tergillis is a New Mexico author who works at Los Alamos and has done research on radio galaxies and can't tell you anything about his job. He's the author of the Alternate History trilogy, the Milkweed Triptych, and Something More Than Night, and a contributor to the Wildcards trilogy. He's also the author of The Mechanical, The Rising, and The Liberation. Thank you. Okay, Brian Hinson. You're from New Mexico too, aren't you? Yes, no?
Originally from Detroit. Moved to New Mexico 20 years ago.
You're from New Mexico. Okay, little word of advice. never admit to being from Detroit when you can say you're from New Mexico. Just saying, okay? Okay. Brian Hinson is a science fiction writer, the author of Traffic Patterns, Almost Comfortable Storage, and Distance and Family and Death, which was in the Amazing Stories Best of 2024. Thank you. All right. Dorinda Jones. Dorinda is that dreaded thing called the local author. And I just would like to remind everybody that at Stratford-on-Avon, Shakespeare was a local author. So Dorinda is the New York Times bestselling author of the Darklight series, Summoned to the 13th Grave, and the Death and the Girl series. She's the winner of the Rebecca, Rita, Golden Heart, and Daphne du Maurier Awards, and her most recent novel is Graveyard Dog. All right, John Stith. John Stith is a Colorado writer, the author of The Tiny Time Machine, Redshift Rendezvous, Reunion on Never End, and Manhattan Transfer, which is currently in the process of being made into a TV pilot starring Walter Koenig, better known as Chekhov from Star Trek, and Casper Van Dyne from Starship Troopers. His most recent novel is Disavowed. Thank you, John. Okay, Lauren Chaffoe. Lauren is a New Mexico author, the author of Implanted and A Hunger with No Name. She has short stories in Fighting for the Future and Solar Punk Creatures and Sunday Morning Transport. I want to make sure I didn't miss anybody here because my notes are so scrambled today. Okay. All right. And then I'd like to welcome the Bubonicon gang, Craig and Pat and Danielle and Arthur. They are part of the group that comes every year from Albuquerque and represent Bubonicon, one of the best science fiction conventions in the country and one that's not very far away from you. This year it's being held on August 22nd to the 24th, is that right? In Albuquerque at the Marriott?
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you. And it's one of my favorite conventions. It's really fun.
Are you coming?
Of course. Okay, let me say a little bit about asking people in public if they're coming to a convention. This is very similar to proposing in public, something that I do not approve of. You might not like the answer. Yeah, I'm coming if I'm still alive. So, which at my age is not a given. Okay, and then I need to introduce the person who introduced me. Where is he? Where did David go? David Sweeten, the chairman of the Jack Williamson Lectureship and an associate professor of English and graduate coordinator. With a specialty in Middle English literature and the Arthurian tradition, which fits right in with this crowd, and I didn't know this, but he also has played Little John at Renaissance festivals, which is even cooler. Okay. Next, I want to introduce Regina Boulay-Sweeten, who is the head of Special Collections. And you will be doing tours of the Special Collections at 1:30 in Golden Library.
Whenever the lunch is over.
Okay.
So y'all don't have to rush.
And I really, if you haven't ever seen Special Collections, it is really something very special. You can see Jack's comic strip, and you can see many of his awards and his books, and a beautiful. Is the mural still there? Yes, I knew they were refurbishing the library, but beautiful mural about Jack's life. So anyway, highly recommend that. So, okay. And then I have to introduce where did Patrice go? Oh, Patrice. Patrice is my sister that never sits down. I know. Patrice, I have two sisters here, Betty Williamson and Patrice Caldwell. And I used to say, we were sisters separated at birth. And then one year at the Lectureship Luncheon, somebody came up to me and said, "How did that happen? How is that?" And I was like, "Okay, well, metaphorically, I was speaking metaphorically that they're my sisters. So I no longer say sisters separated at birth." So, but anyway, Patrice taught for many, many years with Jack, and she also ran the lectureship, and still, even though she's not totally in charge of running the lectureship anymore, still can't sit down for more than 3 seconds at a time. It's a hummingbird syndrome kind of thing that she has. And then Betty Williamson, my other sister, who is Jack's niece and one of my very best friends. And so Betty doesn't, these two ran the lectureship for many years, but Betty now runs Roosevelt County. Is that fair? The entire county. And writes for the local paper, and is generally wonderful, and does a Prairie Chicken Festival, and she has to leave here to go to the book sale because she's in charge of that at the library. Oh, and all of you run over to the Portales Public Library. They're having their annual book sale. I already bought a bunch of stuff. So, okay. And then a quick shout out to my husband, Connie Willis, who is who sees to it that I get everywhere on time. And he is a retired physics professor turned sewing machine expert and quilter. And he collects sewing machines. And if any of you give him a sewing machine or selling a sewing machine at this convention, I will kill you. I will hunt you down and kill you. Thank you. Okay. And then finally, I just wanted to say a word about my daughter, Connie Willis. She is usually here, but she does the forensics lecture. And she was at a big crime scene, so she could not come. And and I think the crime scene was pretty successful, although scary. So she said to tell all of you that she was really sorry that she couldn't be here this year. And that if any of you need information for anything, any forensics information, you are welcome to call her or email her at the Santa Clara Crime Lab. And she's, some of you have emailed her on writing information and stuff. And she is the outreach person for the lab, and she is more than willing to help you with your problems. So you can call her and say, okay, I need to kill somebody and I need to do it this way. And so long as you don't sound too creepy on the phone, she'll probably answer your questions. So anyway, okay, and then let's see. I said drop by the library. Okay, the panels are all in the Jack Williamson Liberal Arts Building, which you guys call what? Jowl?
Jawala.
Jawala. Okay. And those panels start at 3 p.m. But when you go over there, be sure to see the statue of Jack that's standing out front, which is one of my favorites. I think it's lovely. And then the art display, where is that?
It's in the hallway next to the panels.
Okay.
And in the foyer of the building.
Okay. So anyway, be sure to look at the art display too, because it was provided by Britta Ernest's watercolor course and Scott Gollan's graphic design course. And do come to the panels, and we hope to see you all at all the other events. And thank you so much for coming. This is my favorite thing to do every year. So I was very glad to be able to be here. Thank you. Oh, and I forgot to, and I've got to introduce the person. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Sounds good.
I told you my writer notes were all garbled. Sorry, Darcie. Okay. This is our guest of honor this year, who barely made it. Our guest of honor this year is Darcie Little Badger. She's a speculative fiction author and an earth scientist with a PhD in oceanography from Texas A&M. She's a member of the Lipan Apache tribe and lives in California. She's the author of numerous short stories, including Whalebone Parrot, The Sea Under Texas, The Dancers, and Owl versus the Neighborhood Watch, and 2 novels, A Lot's Away, and A Snake Falls to Earth, which have won numerous awards, including the Locus Award for Best First Novel, the Ignite Award, and the Andre Norton Award for Middle Grade and YA Fiction. Her books have been named to over a dozen Best of the Year lists, and A Snake Falls to Earth was named a Newbery Honor Award winner. Darcie writes about a wide variety of things, from climate change to cottonmouth snakes, from floods to fairy rings to the Southwest and Martian deserts to vampires and Indian schools and ballerinas and shapeshifters. She frequently incorporates Apache characters and themes into her work. Her latest book is Shena Lende, and in her spare time, sorry if I garbled that, and in her spare time, Darcie does powerlifting and Twitch streaming and has a pug named Princess Peach. It is my pleasure to welcome you to Portales and to the Williamson Lectureship.
Thank you. All right, let's see if I can get my computer screen up there. And wiggle it around. It's on a second ago. All right. You're gonna see my pug in a second. Beginning. Oops. Hi everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me to this wonderful lectureship. And thank you for the introduction, Connie. It's been neat sitting up there in the front table and just chatting with you about all sorts of things. I write books, short stories, comics, and 3 episodes of a children's TV show called Not Quite Narwhal. And they actually asked me to do that because of my background in oceanography. I do have a PhD in oceanography that I got from Texas A&M University. So I really consider myself a storyteller. A lot of my works are in the vein of, I guess, indigenous futurisms. And I learned about this term after I started writing because Earth, that's such a cool work of indigenous futurisms. So I Googled this term. I was like, really resonate with a lot of these themes. It's using ancestral knowledge and ways of being and applying them to the present and the future in order to survive and thrive there. And you see up here, that's Princess Peach in the little dinosaur hoodie. But I wanted to talk a little bit about my process in actually becoming a sci-fi, fantasy, horror, indigenous futurism writer, because it's kind of an interesting story. And it all begins with my parents, and specifically my mother, who is the big sci-fi fan in the family. This is her when she was a kid, 4th grade, 5th grade in high school. And she lived in McAllen, Texas. And that's down there. It's on the border, Texas and Mexico. And her father worked in a Goodyear tire that was close to the McAllen Public Library. So she had 8 brothers and sisters, and sometimes they'd have to go to work with their dad and hang out there. And if they weren't using the wrenches and stuff as dolls, they would go over to the public library and hang out with the librarians because it was a safe place for them to be. And it was there when she discovered these fantasy books about like Poppy, the Adventure of a Fairy. That was actually the first book she ever bought. She bought it for a nickel from a library sale, which is really convenient that there's one happening right now. And we still have a copy of that book. She read it to me when I was a kid. And it had my uncles were kind of terrible, so they doodled all over it. So I could see their little doodles from back when they were kids. But she also got really into Robert Heinlein. So these are some of the books that she read. Obviously, she was reading whatever she could get her hands on. This is how she learned and refined English. And she passed on this love of science fiction to me. So I read a lot of these paperback books that she had, just kept them with her. She was an original Trekkie too. So, growing up, I watched Star Treks I could. So I really wanted to write since the age of 2 because of my mother, because she told me these stories that were passed down through our family. I'm Lippon Apache on my mother's side of the family, Irish American on my father's side. But my parents would also read me books. And early on, I realized that I wanted to be the type of person, not just to read stories, but to make my own and to share them with the world. So this is a picture of me from a VHS tape, I think. I had to take a screen grab. And you can see I'm learning the alphabet here with a gorilla and a guitar in his arms. So I was like, that's the letter G. So my first word was actually a letter. I said M while we were passing a McDonald's. So I was in like a little baby. Yeah, it's like I looked out and I saw that. It says M. So I was really keyed in. I wanted to write. I wanted to use these letters to tell my stories. And I would scribble on pieces of construction paper, just literal like squiggly lines. Like I did not know how to spell or right at the times, and in order to try and determine how these really important plankton species would react to changes in the seawater chemistry, just because ocean acidification is something that's happening. I would also go to the dunes of White Sands, New Mexico to study parabolic dunes. And these are areas that are so alien looking that they're used to film science fiction shows. So I recognize this from Stargate, like legitimately there is a scene where it was an alien planet, but it's not an alien planet, it's our world. And I was just learning so much that I did not know, even though, I mean, I've lived here all my life, we all have, but it's impossible to know everything. And all the while I was writing short stories and sending them to magazines and getting rejections. And I got 100 rejections, and I would keep track of them on the submission grinder eventually, until I got an acceptance from a magazine called Strange Horizons for a short story called Kashti, which is about two girls who help save a baby who is taken to the underworld. And then I wrote a book. And that book was a Latsue. And it was my first book. And I did not anticipate this, but my agent, sent it around. And this is an actual excerpt from his email. This is Michael Curry, who's a cool guy. It says, "Hi, Darcie. Yes, it's an offer for a Latsue, Kermit Flail. It's from Nick Thomas at Arthur A. Levine Books." Actual quote from my agent. So I was finished grad school around this period. I wrote my book while I was getting a job, so I had a little bit of off time where I could finish a Latsue. And I was becoming a full-time scientific editor doing that work when suddenly I got this offer. And I was just like, really cool, because if even just a couple of people read my work, that would be a dream to me. So of course I accepted this offer. And this is me posing with my dog, Rosie, who, by the way, she's still alive. She's she's a quite old Chihuahua mix, and she hates the camera. So like, if you hold up a phone to her face or any sort of camera shaped object, she'll go like, "Rrr." So that's why you see a bunch of photos of my pug, but this is probably the only photo of Rosie you'll see for a while. It's like, I don't want to stress the old girl out. But I was not sure what to expect, because I had this background in science, and of course I'd always dreamed of writing books. But Arthur A. Levine, he used to work with Scholastic, but when he accepted my book, he was starting his own publishing group. So it's a small publisher. I was going to be one of the first books that they put out. So I was tempering my expectations. I was like, I don't know how well this will do. I don't know if I'll be able to be a full-time author, but I'm just really happy to have this opportunity. And it was around this time that a podcast invited me to their show. And it was a podcast about writing. So they said, you can choose any subject you want and we'll talk about it. And I went to my dad and I asked him you're one of the wisest people I know. And you were the one who was there for me when I was becoming a writer, and he was the head of the writing department in Westcon, Connecticut. So I was like, what is one piece of advice that your students, that young artists would really need to hear? And he thought about it for a long while, and he was quiet. And I thought, well, maybe he didn't hear this question. But then eventually he did say one word, and that was perseverance. And just thinking back through all the rejections that I'd had growing up, and how eventually just by accepting it was part of that process and putting my work out there and writing these strange books about, lip-on characters that are in part based on my people's culture and my people's traditional stories. I don't see a lot of those books on the shelves, and yet I kept writing them, and turns out it was a good plan. Persevering worked out. For my second book, Snake Falls to Earth, that was, as you can see, it was around the time when it was still the pandemic years. But it ended up getting me the Newbery Honor, and I would be the first Native author to be honored by the Newbery Committee. So we went over to this banquet. This is me in a dress my mother-in-law helped me choose, with a belt that my mother beaded. It's kind of hard to tell, but all of those are little silver and gold beads. And that's me accepting this honor. But the thing is, I know that I might be the first, but I'm not going to be the last. And there's so many incredible, I'm editing an anthology now called Beyond the Glittering World. It's an anthology of Indigenous futurisms, and that's going to come out this fall. And just, we were trying to incorporate a lot of new voices. So a lot of young Native writers who have not been published